At this point in time, I'd like to summarize the presentations that we've made available to you thus far, keeping in mind that all of the numbers and the data that we are putting forward, we can cite and or provide our sources for everything that we are stating. All you have to do is reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to provide you with additional information. So in summary, is bilingualism or duality the root of all of our problems? No, it's not, but it does play a significant role. The current state of New Brunswick healthcare, education, and economy are not conducive to economic immigration or interprovincial migration. Would you want to move to or set up a business in a province with no access to doctors or long-term care? Would you want to raise a family in a province with such a dismal illiteracy rate, where our main claim to fame is call centers, which are extremely liquid and can be relocated overseas in an extremely short period with little notice? The barriers to gainful and meaningful employment continue to result in the bleeding of our young, innovative, energetic, skilled youth and further harm our opportunities for growth and development. The costs would be far better used to grow the economy, improve our services, educate our youth, and make New Brunswick a desirable and welcoming place to live, not just exist. This will ultimately help us attract and retain individuals here in New Brunswick. A few other realities to consider. English is universally recognized as the international language of business. While English is only the third most spoken language behind Mandarin and Spanish, neither of these are used internationally in business dealings. French, however, rates only 18th on the global scale. More and more every day, we are dependent on global trade, global communications, and global economy, so our kids need to be prepared to function in this environment. New Brunswick, and by extension Canada, are not bilingual. We are multicultural. It's time to stop pegging us into a dual language system. Nationally, in 2011, English was the mother tongue of 66% of the Canadian population, French of 21%. Canada now has a population of 13% whose mother tongue is neither English nor French, yet at the national level, less than 18% of the entire population are considered to be bilingual. So we need to ask ourselves some questions. What does the future look like for our children, both here in New Brunswick and in the world in general? Are we preparing them for success? Are we meeting their needs? Is there a future for our children here in New Brunswick? If not, how do we create one? Can we adequately meet the growing needs of our increasingly aging population without drastic measures? Can New Brunswick reasonably expect to attract and develop business and industry in its current state? So what can we do about it? What are our options? Well, there's a number of possible options. We could remove the blanket application of language regulations and apply logistical standards based on demographics, region, urgency, and demand. We could follow the example of many global economies and allow the use of translation interpretation services in regions, industries, and services where it's reasonable to do so. We could eliminate the segregation of our population and foster a truly inclusive, integrated community of acceptance and cooperation. We could eliminate the unnecessary duplication of facilities and services at extreme and wasteful cost. We could focus on economic development and business opportunities outside of just our three main urban areas. We could provide an equal quality curriculum education in both official languages to all students of New Brunswick, with a focus on ensuring that graduates meet national and global standards. Technology and resources now exist that should make language no barrier for any Canadian, regardless of the language spoken. Remove the barriers to employment dictated by language, except where there is a real-time, immediate safety concern. And no recruiting should be done outside of New Brunswick, and no jobs granted to extra-provincial individuals, except where New Brunswick is unable to meet an immediate skills requirement or lacks the training and expertise needed, or where said immigrant has a plan and the means to make a positive economic and community addition. But no one's listening. Government won't touch it. Our representatives do not represent our concerns. We hear this every day. Well, people, change does not simply happen. Someone has to make it happen. That someone is us, and that time is now. How do we make it happen? We educate ourselves. Many of the concerns we've mentioned here tonight have been ongoing for a number of years, yet when asked, many New Brunswick citizens are unaware or did not realize the extent. Change must come from government. However, government is elected by you. Know your candidates. Stop voting against something and start voting for something. Stop voting the same old way just because, and start voting for the candidate who represents your values and who is not afraid to bring your concerns to the table and represent you as they are elected to do. If that means changing the way you've always done things, don't be afraid to do it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Embrace and even demand change. Recognize that change is not an admission of failure or defeat. It's only recognition that we can do better. Get involved. The time to sit back and wait for someone else to do it is over. It's up to us, and the time is starting now. Recognize that change will not happen overnight. It took more than 40 years for us to end up here. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of work, but it can be done, and it will be worth it. Stop making excuses. I'm only one person. I'm too busy. I'm too tired. If you don't stand up when it matters, don't expect it to matter when you decide to stand up. Hold your government accountable. Their salaries and pensions are paid by you. You do have a voice. Make it heard. How do we protect our Francophone communities? Because we're not here in opposition to our friends, neighbors, and coworkers. So how do we ensure that their rights and their lifestyles and their cultures are protected? Well, the majority of Acadians will tell you that they achieved bilingualism through daily activities: reading, video games, television, radio, music, shopping, interaction with the English communities, and through marriage. This same opportunity to integrate has not been afforded to the Anglophone communities because we're focused on separating our people to avoid assimilation of the French language. Consider student exchange programs, funding for French language television, video games, reading materials, funding for the integrated functions and festivities. But finally, culture and heritage are personal. They're a part of our identity, but they need to start at home. Children arriving in the education system unable to function in French are not in fact French children. Their language first learned is not French, and we are not responsible for that. Some responsibility for the preservation and protection of the Francophone language and culture must be placed on the Francophone communities themselves. We count many Acadian Francophone individuals among our members. We are not each other's enemy. We should not be fighting each other. We all want the same thing: equality, fairness, opportunity, growth, meaningful and gainful employment, education, security. Anglophones and Francophones aren't really so different after all. We're all human. So join us and be a part of the solution. As mentioned earlier, membership is only $25 a year, and a membership card is provided. Membership may be obtained here tonight via cash or check, or at a later time by mail, via e-transfer, or online by PayPal on our website. Donations are welcome. As mentioned, we operate solely on your membership fees, generosity, and from the sale of our promotional items. Funds will be used for community events, advertising, education, support, legal fund, etc., and transparent accounting of funds is published regularly.